This is Asian View from NHK World Japan. I'm Keiko Kitagawa. Here's a quick look at what's been making news here in Japan and elsewhere in Asia. India hit a record high for daily coronavirus infections on Monday. The government announced more than 350,000 new cases and over 2,800 deaths. Both are single-day records. India's healthcare system is under severe strain. The country also faces an acute and chronic shortage of oxygen for medical treatment. The US and Pakistan have offered their support. South Korean atomic energy experts say the planned release of treated wastewater from Japan's Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant would have a marginal impact on South Koreans. The Japanese government decided earlier this month on a plan to release treated water from the disabled plant into the ocean. The liquid is to be diluted to lower its concentration of radioactive tritium to levels below national regulations. The Korean Nuclear Society said in a statement on Monday that even if all the water stored at the plant is released over the course of a year, South Koreans' exposure to radiation will remain negligible. The statement said most domestic media are whipping up public fear over radiation. The society says it hopes such concerns will be dispelled along with public mistrust regarding the safety of marine products. A Myanmar athlete says he won't compete in the Tokyo Olympics to protest against the military crackdown in his country. Freestyle swimmer Winted U released a statement online in which he referred to indiscriminate killings by the military and police. He described the Myanmar Olympic Committee as a puppet of the regime that ousted the civilian government on February 1st. This is NHK World Japan. The number of people in Japan who have died from COVID-19 topped 10,000 on Monday. It took about a year for the tally to reach 5,000 since the country confirmed its first case. But it took only 3 months for that figure to double. Tokyo and other 3 prefectures are once again under a state of emergency. People are being asked to work from home to reduce commuter traffic.
I think the street is a little less crowded, but it's more crowded than it was under the previous declarations.
I've been working at home 2 or 3 times a week, so I feel that my life hasn't changed.
Government officials are also asking people not to make non-essential outings. Authorities in Thailand are redoubling efforts to fight the latest surge in coronavirus cases. Public venues and businesses in Bangkok have been closed to counter a contagious variant that's spreading rapidly. Authorities say the measures will be in place for at least 2 weeks. Bangkok and over 40 provinces have made face masks mandatory in public places. Violators face fines of over $600. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha was seen without a mask during a meeting on Monday. Bangkok's governor says Prayut paid a fine of $190. Thailand managed to keep infections relatively low last year, but a variant first found in the UK has been spreading rapidly since late March. Japan may allow visiting athletes and coaches to start training for the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics from their first day in the country if they meet certain conditions. The government is considering requiring them to take PCR or antigen tests twice within 96 hours before they leave for Japan and another test at airports when they arrive. Athletes and coaches would in principle have to take virus tests every day after entering Japan. The government says they would have to limit the scope of activities to their lodgings and training and event venues. The government is also considering asking people from sports organizations and media outlets to self-isolate for 14 days after they enter Japan. But it says that if this affects the game's operations, the self-quarantine period would be reduced to 0 to 3 days with severe travel restrictions. Leading Japanese airline operator ANA Holdings says it now expects a smaller group-wide net loss for the fiscal year that ended in March. Executives believe cost cuts more than made up for lower revenues during the pandemic. ANA Holdings reduced its sales forecast to about $6.7 billion, but the firm reduced its forecast for net loss by nearly $1 billion to about $3.7 billion. It cited efforts to lower costs, including a reduction in the number of scheduled flights. This is Asian View from NHK World Japan. I'm Keiko Kitagawa.